And welcome back to Blue Shirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Piscazzi, with my wonderful co-host, John Horton. Definitely check out our Twitter at BlueBuzz26, and let's get right into it today. It has been a hot minute. I know we got you guys a little bit of an episode at the end of last week there, but it's been a minute here with the Four Nations face-off, getting back into some regular season action. Excited to get back here on the mic, both of us at the same time. Just gassed up here. Before we get into all of the Ranger stuff here, news, all that good stuff that we have missed for you guys, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing again, as I always say lately, outside of Rangers hockey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I got some pretty hot takes on this team going forward and what I've seen the last couple weeks or week, I should say. I'm sure you do yourself. But yeah,
Yeah,
had a disjointed episode last week, but for good reason on your end because you are now engaged. So congratulations to that. We'll get the good news going first before
sir.
we dive into the despair.
It has been a busy couple weeks, I gotta say. Yeah, it's been a lot of moving and shaking between work and the family and life balance and everything, but good stuff, all good stuff. So we'll get right into some of the not so good stuff here. I mean, this is kind of good stuff, I guess, when you look at this in a larger picture and in a vacuum, I guess. Since the last time we were here together on the sticks here, the Rags are 4-2. So that's it could be worse, right? You look at
Yeah.
the games going into the break, and we talked a little bit about this on our last episode, but just to kind of get, since we're back here, full throttle. We did beat the Bruins. We lost to the Pens, which we ended up beating them over the weekend. Beat the Blue Jackets, and then come back from the break, had an absolutely atrocious loss, the 8-2 loss to the Sabres. Igor lets up 5 in the first, gets pulled. I mean, just totally lackluster, no effort, no motivation. I mean, bricks in the skates, just awful. And then the 5-3 win over the Pens this weekend as well, not overly convincing. I mean, we got outshot like nobody's business. Quite frankly, Igor earned his paycheck on that one because he's one of the prime key reasons we were even in that game. And then I was actually impressed with the win over the Isles. To see a lot of the bottom guys who are getting rewarded, getting the ice time, just the physical play as well. I believe I saw somewhere that game we had the fourth most hits in a total game of any game in the NHL this year, which is very out of character for this team, considering how our guys don't like to skate and be physical and play winning hockey at times. But yeah, all that to say that this team's been up and down, a little bit of a mixed bag, but 4-2 over the last 6 looks pretty good for what we need to be, where we need to be at in terms of getting some wins here, getting into the playoffs. And just real quick, the first time scorer, unfortunately, you are still winning. I did go back and check on the ones that we had predicted. It's a tight one. No, don't get too excited over there. It's only 3-2. And we will be predicting 3 or 4 games here at the end of this episode, so you never know what's going to happen here. But yeah, all that to say that I'm definitely not impressed by the way that we won some of these games, but the points are the points. The standings are the standings, and so I can't be overly perturbed and upset because of where we are. We're still in the mix. We're still on the hunt here, but we have some really, really important games coming up, which we'll get into later in the episode. But yeah, I mean, I think a real quick note before we dive into all the Ranger stuff here. The U.S. did lose to Canada as well in the Four Nations, which, boo, 3-2 in overtime. I mean, what are you going to do? It was a good game. They tried their hearts out. Honestly, the Four Nations face-off was some really good hockey. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I think that it's going to spur some changes in some other pro leagues, probably the NBA as well, in terms of what they start doing with some of the break and the all-star stuff and everything like that. But just to get into our guys that played in that tournament, Kreides played less than an injured Tkachuk, excuse me. Trocheck was a role player guy, did everything he wanted to do, nothing flashy, nothing crazy, but winning faceoffs, PK, all that kind of stuff. Fox looks slow. I'm still convinced that those knee injuries he took against the Canes last year have just been lingering because he is not the same skater he used to be. And Miller looked good. Miller's looked really good since we traded for him, so nothing new there. So yeah, I mean, just with all that being said, curious how you're thinking this team is looking right now. I know a little bit up and down, and then how our guys performed at the Four Nations and how we're looking right now, with the injuries and everything, and just giving us getting us into our episode here.
Yeah, the Four Nations was a lot of fun, and I think they should do that moving forward. I just hope I wish they would hold these events when the Stanley Cup isn't on the line, because some players I feel like might want to be a little more reserved because, like, if their team's in a
Mhm.
position to win the cup, they might think, why would I, run into the boards here if I can
I
win?
gotta
And you
say though, I
see,
mean, I didn't get that vibe like
I
from
didn't
any of these
either.
guys, like, which is awesome because you got a really good
Yeah,
point. Like mid-season playoffs coming up in a couple months, like you would think that some of these guys might be a little
right.
bit worried, but it was really, really good hockey. Like these guys were flying out there.
Yeah, no, it was. But then you see like Tachuk injured more so from
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
other players injured. So now it like hurts other teams. I think it's a great idea and it spurred good viewership. And I think it needs to happen maybe after the Stanley Cup. That might be a little better. So that way they can be a little more all out. And US probably would have maybe won if Austin Matthews didn't pinch and leave Connor McDavid wide open in
Mhm.
the slot. That
He
was the
also was like
single.
not overly impressive throughout the
No,
tournament. Like you
no, he had
really,
a lot of assists, but
we had
he's
some big
Austin
guns that
Matthews.
like
Like,
didn't really do what you normally expect them to. But as a whole, the team performed really well. I think they had some really good chemistry.
I do too. I'm surprised there was no the taboo of Russia is so weird when it comes to
I
like
know
these
that would have been a
national
good
stuff.
team, dude.
Yeah, because I've always seen it like skill wise, it's like Canadian players, Russian players, US players. Sometimes
Mm,
Finnish is a little higher than the US ones. US has made a good leap the last couple of years in terms of skilled players, but
yeah.
yeah. So thanks, Austin Matthews. But yeah, this Rangers team is confusing, very confusing right now. 19th in the league, 58 games played. 29 wins, 25 losses, 4 overtime losses, 62 points. In terms of the wild card, they are just below the Ottawa Senators, who are just below the Columbus Blue Jackets in the wild card, both tied for 62 points between us and Ottawa. Columbus Blue Jackets have 64. Um, yeah, yeah, it's misleading to see that, like, from an outside looking in, you say, oh, the Rangers won 4 of their last 6.
Mhm.
And you see how bad we've been outshot. You see what happens when Igor decides to not play hockey in the Sabres game. That was probably, in my lifetime, one of the worst Ranger games I've ever seen. I had to stop watching
I
because
mean,
it
we
was
weren't
just
really doing him any
so bad.
favors in front of him either, though. To be
No,
fair.
no, we were not. But he
Mm,
he wa- he was rough. And then
yeah,
the
yeah,
Penguins game was horrible. We just survived the onslaught and scored. And then
genuinely, yeah.
yeah, and then the Islanders game was actual good energy, and it cost us our souls apparently because Keandre Miller went down with injury at the time of recording this. We don't know the extent of that, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, Adam Fox looks like either a shoulder injury or a collarbone injury, whatever it may be. He has been placed on injured reserve, but is expected to be back before the end of the season for some push home stretch thing, whatever it may be.
Mm,
Which leads me into my hot take. This Maybe it's not, but this team sucks. This team is not good. This team does not have what it takes at this moment in terms of leadership, in terms of skill, and in terms of discipline to make a Stanley Cup run. They just don't. And I think Peter Laviolette is a good coach, and I think he's doing everything he possibly can do. But I think this offseason needs to be a major shift
mm,
on player acquisition, player trades, and we need to start a hunt for like a good young coach or someone who doesn't have to be young, but like younger than Laviolette, maybe someone who can build the culture. I've always say it all the time: the Rangers need a culture. We need a
mhm.
culture coach. We need something that can stabilize this team because we don't really have an identity. The whole no quit in New York thing is one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's so cringy and it's false because
There's
ever
so
since
much
then,
quit. There's
there's so
so
much
much
quit.
quit.
Yeah, and the defense is bad. And if Igor decides to not play hockey, we just lose 8-2. And Alexei Lafreniere is our young star, and he's been a ghost. He has vanished.
Mm,
He came back from the break and has done absolutely nothing. And before the break, was also barely doing anything. And now he is second on the team for the worst plus minus, right behind Mika Zibanejad. His back check is non-existent. His forecheck is barely there. Him and Panarin don't seem to be clicking. And it's a little concerning to think that he only is as good as his line mate, which is not what we signed him for. So this team is not good. This team is not as fun to watch as they were. The
mm,
leadership is non-existent. Chris Kreider's having an on and off season because of injuries, hopefully not age. Mika Zibanejad, we need to upgrade from him, move on, whatever it may be.
mm.
It sucks. We're in limbo. I feel like we're in limbo. I feel like we're kind of just spinning our wheels, and I don't know. I don't know. All you can do is re-sign some guys that deserve it, trade others that don't, and pick up the pieces. Really, in my
Mm.
opinion. I mean, if we make the wild card in the playoffs, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching. Maybe we'll be the 2019 St. Louis Blues. That would be interesting. But I just all I see is quit in New York. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that no part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the pain. I definitely do feel the pain. I think the one, I always try and be like a little bit more positive or anything like that. It's definitely difficult, but I do have to say, I think I have a little bit more confidence in this team in terms of just the results that they're getting, right? It's not overly convincing, but we beat the Pens, right? We got the win. The way that we came out against the Isles was impressive. We have another game against the Isles next week. You hope that we come out with that same intensity and that fire, and that's another game where we can get an important 2 points, spread the gap between us and the Isles. That's a team that is in the wild card race right there with us. A little bit further out of it after we kind of spanked them, which is actually really nice and very satisfying. But all that to say that I do see a little bit of spark in this team. I think that also ultimately, if we do end up making that wild card, you're gonna, you have to figure that that's going to be from a very solid, consistent push towards the end of the year, which is something I think can generate a lot of momentum from us. Whether or not the veterans and the core guys on this team actually use that momentum is a whole nother story, because momentum to these guys is literally gone like that. I mean, I've never seen guys who are
It's brutal.
quicker
Yeah.
to quit and to stop skating and stop. I mean, it's very confusing. Like I like that word that you used earlier. This team is confusing because we're getting the results, but it's not overly convincing. And the way that we're defending in the zone, we are constantly chasing the play. There are really only 3 or 4 forwards and 1 or 2 defensemen that are consistently skating, getting on the body, and putting in those checks and putting in the work. And honestly, 2 of the guys that have been doing that more than anybody else are our acquisitions. I got to bite my tongue here. I got to go back and say that I'm happy with the Miller trade. It could not have worked out better for us so far. He's skating harder than anybody on this team. He's trying harder than anybody else out there, and it's been infectious. I think he's actually spreading a little bit of that around. We're not always seeing that from the guys. They're not always necessarily responding, but I do think that he's a force that is going to spread throughout this locker room. And with that, I've been really impressed with Will Borgen as well. I mean, the 2 of them have honestly been playing harder than a large majority of anybody on this team. Will Borgen, I think, is very deserving of that extension we gave him. I'm really happy to slot him in there as a mid-pair defenseman for a couple years here. I think he's got a lot of potential. And in that Pens game, he laid it all out on the line and literally made like a game-saving save. Like went down and took the puck and stick right here to the chest. I mean, you think half the guys on this team are getting down and making that play? I don't think they are at this point. The way that the way that they're just, the heart's not there, the drive's not there, the push has not been there. So to see plays like a guy like that, and right after, Igor's patting him on the back, congratulating him, like, thank you, man, because you just saved us. You saved me. You saved us a goal. You probably saved the game. And so seeing plays like that from Borgen, seeing the effort from Miller, I do have to go back and renege and say I'm actually really happy with how the Miller trades worked out. I was never against the Borgen trade, but I've just been really happy with what I've seen from him. And you just got to hope that that's going to spread. I mean, we're seeing Laviolette give some of these grinders and some of these bottom guys more playing time. And honestly, we're getting rewarded for it. VC had a huge goal in that Pens game. That was the second most ice time he's gotten all year. And he got over 8 minutes in the third period. It was at the expense of guys like Laugh and Panarin. But like you had highlighted, we're not really seeing anything from Laugh, and even Panarin's been kind of hit or miss here and there. Really not seeing consistent production from him over the last 5 to 10 games. So I am happy with certain aspects of what I'm seeing, but also just perplexed that other aspects and other guys on this team are not following suit. All these guys have to buy in. I'm not as convinced that if we go move on from Laviolette, it's going to really do much for this team. I think that the guys have to buy in. They have to be a team. They have to be a united front and buy into the system. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what coach you put there on the bench. If the players do not buy into the system and play as a unit, consistently and believe in each other and fight for the guys in that locker room and on that bench, then it doesn't matter if you have John Cooper. It doesn't matter if you have Rod Brind'Amour. It doesn't matter if you have Laviolette. It doesn't matter if you have any of these guys. It doesn't matter if you have Mike Sullivan. It doesn't matter, because if they're not going to follow suit, what's the point? But yeah, I am definitely more confident, I think, than maybe some of the fans here, particularly you, obviously. But I do have my trepidations. Obviously, I mean, this team is not winning in overly convincing manner, to say the least. But I still think we can make a push here. And like I said, if we can make that push and use that momentum, I think that we could make a little bit of run in the playoffs. I mean, you never know. You never know. I just hope we don't mortgage our future for like a first or second round exit. But if we can make it with this roster, maybe one or two minor trades that we've talked about previously, I don't see why not. I think that's probably the best plan of action. And it's one of those things where you make the playoffs, you never know what could happen. And I think before we get into a little bit more discussion of some of the guys here and a highlight of last 24 games here, we'll get a word from our lovely sponsors. We're getting into some nice weather here. We do have a little bit of I believe it's a golf themed ad here from DraftKings. Got the Masters and stuff coming up in a couple months here, so at least the weather's getting nice. It's something to look forward to.
Yes, I have failed to get into golf many times because I am not good at it. But I'm sure anybody.
Yes,
yeah, I'm horrible. But I'm sure hopefully a lot of people listening are good at it. But yeah, from DraftKings here, it might not feel like it, but spring is right around the corner, apparently. Golfers are hitting the links, and we have some tournaments to talk about. And if you want to do more than just talk and put your money where your mouth is, you can get in on all the tee to the green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. From Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting, odds, boosts, and so much more. If you've bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tourney and make your pick. It's really that simple. Something special for first-time listeners new to DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. And that is if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Yes. So,
but yeah, so real quick, because I know I just talked for a whole bunch, but I want to highlight something here. I'm just going to put you on the spot real quick because I think this is
okay. All right, good,
on opening here. So I went through and I looked at our last 24 games here. There's some tough ones in here. I got to say, in the last 24 games here, we have 6 games against teams that are in the wild card race with us in some fashion, 5 to 6 points difference there. Another 8 games against playoff teams in the East, primarily like the Leafs, the Lightning, the Panthers, the Canes.
It's not looking good so far.
On top of that, we have another 6 games against West playoff teams, that being, the Canucks, the Kings, the Oilers, a couple games against the Wild, and a game against the Jets. With that being said, this is nuts. 20 of the 24 games we have remaining are against potential playoff teams or teams that have pretty much cemented themselves in a playoff position. Yeah, doesn't look great when you look at that. Really, and considering that this team's going to go on a little bit of a run here. With that being said, I mean, where do you think this team is going to finish in the standings? Do you think we make the playoffs or not?
Well, I'm glad you did that analysis because wow, that looks horrible.
Right, it's grim. I mean, it's going to be a hard road for sure. It's not going to be easy.
I think the thing is, if they go through the trial of playing those teams and do make the playoffs, then I will be very hopeful. And then, especially with the injuries we just sustained, and if Laugh and Panarin can pull their heads out of their rear end, then I will definitely be more hopeful. I mean, Laugh only has 14 goals on the whole season.
Yeah,
compared to last year, it's like what the actual hell. Ooh, wow.
I know I put you on the spot here.
No, it's a good spot. It's a good spot to be in. My gut feeling is they miss. My gut feeling is I'm gonna open my phone. I'm gonna see that update. The Rangers have been eliminated from playoff contention or whatever it is. Even if it's by like, I could even see it being by just like a math standard. Like another team just gets 2 extra points that we just couldn't get in time, and we just get mathematically eliminated. I could see that. I would be shocked if we made the playoffs with just how horrendous this team has been with the quit they've put into play, like how you mentioned before, just how they just give up so easily and the lack of leadership and Chris Kreider being injured. But what really hinges on all of that and points I wanted to go into more is, the trade deadline's coming up. Whatever message Drury sends at this trade deadline will help answer that question for me. If he buys, then okay, I think the chances are a little better. But if he just outright sells, which makes more sense to sell at the trade deadline now than it does in the offseason because the stakes are higher, teams might be more willing to move pieces because they're desperate. for a push. If he sells, then yeah, that's it, because that's, these players for whatever reason mentally are just so weak. And trading, as much as I loved Truba being, shipped out of this team, it completely shattered this team. I guess they really
Yeah,
loved his leadership, which I can't fault the guy for. How bad he was defensively. He did put his body on the line, and he was a big physical force in that locker room and on the ice. He was just a horrendous defenseman, and his cap
terribly
hit just didn't.
inconsistent. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
just his cap hit did not justify the
Dude, if he
stay.
was
But
making like 4 mil even or
oh, wouldn't have
5
mattered.
mil,
Wouldn't have mattered.
sure. Like not the best, given the numbers there, but you could live with it. But just, I mean, you're getting up
Yeah,
at like you're
and even
looking at
before
that
too, he
contract and it's
was.
just like, bro, like
Yeah, and he was putting up like not a lot of points at the beginning of the
mm,
season. Not that you expect a ton, but still. Um, long-winded, but yeah, I think they miss. I don't know. What do you
okay.
think?
So I'm not super far off from where you are in terms of like, I like that you had mentioned there it's probably going to be a close one because I'm thinking we're going to just slip in. I think it's going to be by the clutchest of margins. I don't think it's going to be easy by any standard.
Mhm.
But I'm going to take a flyer out here and I'm going to believe in our guys. I am. I'm
I
going to,
like it. I like it.
you know what I mean? And I don't want to say, I don't want to just sound like a homer. I think we talked a lot about like how lackluster they've looked and how unconvincing they've looked, but they're getting the points. And that's the thing that I can't ignore. When I look at these last 6 games, okay, 8-2 loss to the Sabres sticks out, 5-3 win to the Pens in which we looked terrible sticks out. 3-2 loss to the Pens in which we didn't look overly convincing as well sticks out. But we still got, what is that? 8 points out of a possible. Wait, yeah, 8 points out of a possible 12. I mean, not the best conversion there, but the points are there. Especially when you look at the other teams in the East there that are in the mix with us. We have one less game played than the Bruins, who are tied in points with us. So right there, that's a swing. One more game played than the Senators, but we do have a game against them coming up pretty soon. We have a game or two against the Flyers, game against the Islanders. There's some opportunity there. I believe we have a game against the Blue Jackets as well. It really, I'm going to believe in these guys. I am. I'm going to believe that we're going to kind of pull it together here. Like I said, I think we're seeing a lot of energy and spark come from our bottom guys and a couple top guys, Miller in particular. And I think that's going to spread. I really, especially after that physical performance against the Islanders, that's something that I'm really holding on to. I mean, I know we always tend to play the Isles a little bit more physical, that rivalry energy and everything like that. But I'm hoping that we can use that momentum. And with some of these guys being hurt, definitely begs the question of who's going to fill the spots, who's going where, when, how. But I think it's going to be an opportunity for some of these guys that we've been talking about getting some minutes. I hope that Zach Jones is finally able to get some minutes. It'd be nice if we saw Othman get some minutes in the bottom 6. I think that we are going to see Laviolette be rewarding some of these grinders a little bit more. And it paid off. Again, VC scored a huge goal in that Pens game, and we saw the game against the Isles was practically won by the bottom 6. I mean, Brodzinski has 2 goals. Rempe has a goal. Vakanainen has a goal and 2 assists. I mean, those are all role players. Those are guys that are playing mid-bottom 6 minutes at best. But I think we're going to see Lav make those decisions, reward some of those guys, and I'm really hoping that that pays off and that energy can spread and permeate throughout this locker room. And like I said, I think opportunities for guys like Jones, guys like Othman, could be good. Good to get them some time here and see what they see what they can give us. If they can give us a little spark as well. And with all that being said, Cooley needs to play as many minutes as possible. The man is on a mission. Him and Miller have skate harder than anybody on this team. No doubt, no question for me. Cooley in particular has been an engine, an absolute unit. I mean, when you look at the hits numbers, I believe he is 4th in the league right now in hits. He's in the top 5 in hits per game, top 10 in like hits per 60 or something, like, one of those advanced metrics kind of things. And, he's scoring points as well. Obviously, he's never going to be this top line 100-point kind of guy, but we don't need that from him. And what we're getting from him is what we need from this team. We need our guys to look at Cooley and use that energy and use his play as an example, which is crazy to say about a guy as young as him. But, all that to say that I love what we're seeing from him. It hasn't, the points haven't been consistent all year, but the play has been. The intangibles has been. The energy has been. The hits, the physical play, and smart play as well. He doesn't really take a lot of penalties. And so if we could see Cooley get as many minutes as possible, I'd love to see him just go on a tear here in the end of the year. And again, hopefully that energy can kind of permeate throughout the locker room. Yeah, I mean, we got big games coming up here. We do, and I got them here if we want to get into our first time scorer predictions for these games. I don't know how you're feeling, but
Yeah, we could do those, and I can give a wrap up on that. But yeah, you said it well.
absolutely,
I like your
absolutely.
hope. No, I do like your
Hey,
hope. And
like I said, I'm gonna believe just because of the energy we're getting from the role players. I'm just hoping that that's going to permeate. I'm hoping that that's gonna be a spark that these guys can finally hold on to.
yeah, no, I
Might
agree.
I mean, it
Because
might be a little homerish because some of these guys they're not
yeah,
always responding to the energy, but some of these T guys getting hurt,
and
again, some of these opportunities.
some players just piss me
Oh,
off like laugh. I got two quick questions. Two quick questions for you.
absolutely,
First
absolutely.
one is, what do you think? What the hell do you think is wrong with Lafreniere, and what do you think he's gonna do? That's a quick one. You don't
What do
have
you
to
mean,
go
like
to crazy depth.
what he's gonna do? What do you mean, like points wise, or like
Yeah,
what?
like, is he gonna pick his head out of his butt and
Mhm.
start playing hockey? Is he gonna just dwindle and have a regression this year and be like a 40-point player for the next 7 years? Or like, what do you like? To me, because I still
Mhm.
stand by my point. I think he's just a lazy hockey player. I really do. I just think he's a lazy player. I don't think he puts in enough off-season work, and I just think that's just who he is. And oh, he's 23. Okay, well, grow up. You're getting paid
Mhm.
millions of dollars. You're in the National Hockey League. You were drafted first overall. You lit up the minors, or not the minors, the juniors, excuse me. Your stats in those leagues were incredible.
Mhm.
And yeah, the Rangers didn't do a lot of favors with a lot of burying, but like besides that, grow up, play
Mhm.
hockey, stop getting suntans down in the south. Like what's going on? So that's my first question.
Okay.
And then my second question is, next week is the trade deadline. Do
Mhm.
you think Drury sells or buys? Those are
Okay.
my two.
I
'Cause
gotcha.
that'll really determine our prior answer. Because if he sells,
Mhm.
in my opinion, if he sells, then he needs to call up Othman and Berard and just let them play the rest of the year in the
Yeah,
NHL.
just give our young
Transition.
guys some
Yeah.
time. Yeah, no, it's valid. I think unfortunately on the laugh stuff, I think we're gonna see him get a few points here and there. Like I don't think he's done scoring for the year. Like obviously, I think he's probably gonna hit the 40 points. I mean, he's at 32 right now, but that negative 18 is just so indicative of what we've really been seeing from him. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be overly impressed by his play. I think we're going to see him get a few points here and there. Hopefully, some clutch plays. I mean, the skill is there. It's just a matter of, is he skating? Is he getting on the hands? Is he playing physical? Is he trying hard? Is he just chasing the play? And a lot of times we're seeing him behind the play, just chasing. And he's not chasing at a appropriate speed a lot of the time. A lot of the time he's just kind of jogging like his buddy Panarin. I mean, they don't really like to get back on the back check. A number of forwards, especially our top forwards, don't get back on the back check enough. We need to see more of that. That's a really important piece of why we're getting so many rush goals scored on us. We're simply not seeing the guys get back in transition. Whether that's from spending too much time in the offensive zone, passing the puck around in circles and then losing possession, or just a lack of effort, a lack of energy, whatever it might be, we need to see more defensive effort from our forwards, specifically guys like Laff and Panarin, and we're not seeing that. So I mean, in the long and short of it, I don't think we're going to be impressed by what we see from him. At least the end of this year here. And then you got to hope that it's growing pains. You really got to hope that it is just something that he's going to be able to overcome and eventually just kind of get better and mature as a player in the league here. But to your point, he has certainly shown more laziness than not. So I can't avidly defend him as much as I'd like to. And to get into the trade deadline a little bit, I mean, I think it's the easy answer to say it's a little bit of a hybrid. So I don't really want to go there, but I don't think we fully commit to selling or buying. If I'm being honest, I with that being said, I don't think we're going to see another big player move. I really don't see that happening in season, especially at this point before the trade deadline. With Kreider being hurt, I really think that complicates that kind of avenue. Also, we made it pretty clear. I really don't know that we want to see Kreider get moved anyway. Um, I think it's just too much trouble to move Mika at this point. And I mean, you shatter the locker room if you do that. Like in all reality, as nice as it would be to get a return and get some skill guys back, whatever draft capital, whatever we're going to get, I think that would signal to me that that's it for the rest of the year. And so I don't see a big player move coming, but I do see one or two depth rotation type moves. I don't know that we're gonna. That's why I don't think it's going to be necessarily buy or sell. I think it is going to be one or two moves to just supplement the roster. I think that Drury is transitioned to that approach towards the trade deadline in the past couple seasons, as opposed to the prior to that. When he brought in the Kane and the Tarasenko and the Cop and Vetrano and things like that, kind of learned his lesson a little bit last year. Made kind of step back and just made more of those like rotational kind of moves. Brought in Wenberg. I'm totally blanking on a couple of the other moves he made there, but I think we're going to see more of that approach. I think it's the easy answer, but I feel like it's a little bit of a cop out, but that's just kind of what I'm hoping, as well as what I think is going to happen here with Drury. So, do you think? I said, do you think we're making a big move here, big splash, or you think that's all in the off season?
I think that's all in the offseason. I have to agree with you. I think if we came out of the break and lost these last 3 games straight, like by the 8-2 deficit and like the other games leading up to it, I think then he'd be like, right, sell. But it is a tough position to do that fully, and also with some of the players being injured. I would like to think Chris Kreider's safe. Just because of who he is and also his injuries, that could be part of the reason why he's been playing so bad this year. And I really do think it is. I mean, he's also 33, so I think this offseason you have a tough conversation with Mika, but this deadline, the only real major thing I could see is a Lindgren move, and maybe surprisingly like a Keandre Miller, maybe, because they're both on 1 years right now. They're both Lindgren more so than Miller, not great, and there needs to be some upgrades for that. And I think that's what we'll see. I don't think there's gonna be anything crazy. With Laugh, I agree with you completely. It just sucks that we drafted him first overall. It's been a bumpy road with him. He shows a lot of commitment and growth. We reward him with a long-term contract, and then he goes and gets a tan in Florida. So it's like, come on, it's a little ridiculous. And I see that now with Kakko was playing kind of crappy, hit or miss, but he was unfairly scratched here and there. And then now he's been moved to the Kraken, and he's playing a lot better. And I think part of it is new area, but a lot of people also forget too, his contract's up at the end of this season. He needs a new contract. So
but it's not like he was
him to play that well.
But he wasn't doing that for us. Like
he wasn't doing that for us either. Yeah, so it's like apples to oranges. But I also think,
he's getting a lot more opportunity too, though. He's getting an additional 4 minutes and what is that, 17 seconds compared to what he was getting. So
yes, he doesn't have as many stops as he did here. Like he had to get through Kreider. He really
does have a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, but I also think it's it's inevitable. You can't get around it. But I think it's just the contract fever that players get, as I'll call it. I don't know if anybody else has coined that, but he needs a new contract. I think he's going to show what he can, which is fine. He'll get his new contract with the Kraken, and then he'll just go back to being that somewhat invisible guy. I'd be shocked if he keeps up this, maybe. And if not, whatever. He does. He doesn't. I mean, he wasn't doing, like you said, he wasn't doing it for us. He had opportunities. He had like a 20-game stretch on a top line, did nothing.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I was never a huge fan of him, besides his, intangibles. But I think that's good. I think we can move to the first time scores.
Absolutely.
I think we covered a lot of good stuff coming out of this long break.
Yeah, I know it's been a hot sec since we've both been on the mic here, but glad to get back at it and get some good stuff here for the guys. So we'll get right into our first time score predictions here. And I actually know somebody who's in a press box at the Leafs game Friday, which is just
really
nuts. Yeah, this will be out. This will be out
either
Friday.
Yeah, probably
Thursday. Friday or Thursday.
Friday.
I keep thinking it's Thursday. My days are all mixed up working overnight. I'm fried. So this Friday we are playing against the Leafs, and I'm going to change it up here. I'm going to let you guess first on this one, and then I'm going to guess first on the next one. And then we'll go back and forth because there's 4 games here that I'm going to get us predicting here. So who do you think is scoring first on the Leafs game?
Oh, man. That's a brutal question. JT Miller. Yeah. All right. I'm not really confident in that one. I don't know why, but I'm just going for it.
I'm not, it's funny because I'm not confident in my Panarin guess here either. I feel like he's got to show up here at some point, right? I mean, not that he's been a ghost or invisible, but he just hasn't been as impactful as you're used to seeing from him. So it's been a little perplexing. Getting into the Preds game, this is one where I think it's going to be kind of like I don't want to say a random guy, but I mean, I'm thinking this first score is going to be not from a top guy here. I think I take a flyer out on Cooley here. Not that I think that's not really taking a flyer out. I mean, he's been pretty impressive this year, but I'm going to go for a Cooley first goal in that one.
Yeah, I believe I agree with. I'm going to go with looking at the roster here. See, I don't want to pick him because he's. I was gonna say Arthur Kaliev, but he
Mm.
might be scratched, and I
That's
don't
yeah.
want
You
to take
never
that
know.
risk.
Yeah.
Uh, Fungul. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with the fun one, Braden Schneider.
All
Yeah,
right. All right.
yeah.
Okay. I like it. I always like the defenseman picks. And then let's see. Who do you think is scoring first in the Isles game?
Riley Smith.
Interesting pick. I was actually
Oh,
just looking at him.
that's
Like
another one too.
literally.
Yeah, the trade deadline, he could get flipped. I forgot. That's another
He could.
possibility.
Honestly, I kind of hope we pick. I kind of hope we keep him. I mean, he's not that he's been like consistently amazing or like a world breaker or anything like
Yeah,
that.
he's
But
got
for the
10
return we're
goals.
getting,
Like,
for the
yeah,
return we're gonna get for him though at 29 points in less than 6, like he's at a point every other game. You can play
yeah.
him up and down the lineup, the penalty kill, power play. Like, I just think he gives us a lot more than we're gonna get back for him, especially if we are thinking that we're a team that can make a run. I mean, that's just my 2 cents, but
I,
not
yeah,
a
I'm
bad
still.
call though. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we do move him.
Yeah, I'm still pissed we had to give up a second for him. I don't think he was worth a second. That was kind
No,
of
but I mean, a
brutal.
second round pick in the NHL is never. It's. I don't know. I don't want to say it's not
Yeah,
huge, but it's
not like
not as
football,
impactful.
but
Yeah, it's not as impactful as. I mean, that's a day one, or that's like as a what is it, day 2 pick at the
I think
NFL
it's a day
draft.
two. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, or
whereas
day one.
yeah,
I don't,
because
I
I
don't
think day
remember.
one's all the first round. But regardless, it means a lot more in other leagues.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, on this one, I think JT Miller scoring first in that game. I do.
Okay.
And then getting into the Caps game here, man, this one
We're gonna get destroyed that
I
game.
I I don't know. I hope we show up. If I
I
It's
watched
gonna be
them.
tough, bro. They're so good.
Yeah, I
I
watched
watched
the
them destroy the
Capitals.
Pens the other day.
Yeah, I
Oh
watched
my
them.
god.
I watched them destroy the Oilers too.
Yeah, dude, that was crazy.
Ovechkin had 2 goals. He's 12 goals away, which is crazy.
Dude,
The part of their hype is them chasing it with
the
him, which I
crazy
get.
thing is that like before, I think it was the Penguins game, he was at like he needed 16 goals. And then they score 8 goals that game. He literally didn't even get one. I think he had 1 assist. And
Yep.
then he goes in and scores a freaking hat trick in the Oilers game, was it?
It was almost. He actually would have had a hat trick, but the third shot he took that was on an open net, it like bounced
No,
off
he
the
got a
bottom
hat
of
trick.
his stick.
He got a hattie.
Against the Oilers? I thought it was
Yeah,
just 2
against the
goals.
Oilers. No, his hattie was the empty netter.
Oh, so it was almost 4 goals then, because the one I saw,
Yeah.
he almost. Yeah, what? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, dude, he had 2 in the second, 1 on the power play, and then he
I
had
mean,
a
when you're chasing the all-time goals record, I mean,
it's a lot of juice.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely nervous for that game. With that being said, I gotta take a guess here. I think, oh man, I think Trocheck is gonna score first in that game.
I wish
He's
Adam
gonna
Enstrom
go.
wasn't injured. He's been so helpful.
I know, dude. He was fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's fast, dude. For being like 6'8", 6'9" on skates,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's fast. He moves well. He's got good hands. He's physical. I mean, he's a player that like I think you could slide into the mid
He's
bottom six here for
6'6".
years from now.
Still big
Yeah,
though.
bro,
Yeah.
on skates though, dude. That's
True. That's like 6'9".
6'8".
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think scoring first in
He
that
looks
cast?
like he looks like a buffer Adam Fox, which is so funny.
I know it's the chin. It's the chin.
It's the chat. I guess a sign is of good faith, and I hope the number 13 doesn't turn out to be a bad luck number. I'm gonna go with a laugh.
Okay. I like it. I like where you're thinking. But, oh man, this team. I mean, I think we gotta just hope and believe and honestly pray a little bit. They could use the energy there, but I don't have much else for this one. I think we like you said before, we covered a lot of our stuff here and everything we wanted to get out there. It's been a while since we got on here for you guys, but happy to kind of finally be getting back and get into the action. Next week we will be rolling again. We'll be getting you guys all the content and everything, and should be getting back to normal schedule here. Thank you all for bearing with us on that. Again, sorry about the delay as well as the disjointed recording last week, but again, just happy to get back here. And I don't know if you want to give your final thoughts and then I'll close us out, or if you want to close us out, whatever you're thinking.
Yeah, I'll give a final thought, and then I think you could roll us out since first
Sounds
one
good.
back. Yeah, this team gives you a lot to be excited for and a lot to be disappointed about. And that's kind of the name of the 2024-25 season so far. The playoffs, the wild card is there. Who knows how realistic it is? We're mounting injuries left and right now. Key players are disappearing. So we will see. We will see. The trade deadline is next week. I think whatever moves Drury makes will be indicative of what this team can do. And Matt's great analysis of playing 20 out of 24 playoff contending teams.
Yikes.
So we will see what they can do. And if not, then we'll have a big offseason to see what happens. At least Drury is not a passive GM. Sometimes he's a little aggressive, but hopefully it pays off and we will see. So as always, I may sound depressed about this team. I may sound disappointed, but there's a good reason for that. But I'm always going to sit down. I'm always going to watch the games, always going to analyze. I'm always going to bring this to you, ladies and gentlemen. And I really, really hope you continue to listen and enjoy. And hopefully we can be excited and not depressed for the remaining 24 games of the season. And depending on our mood will shift depending on the trade deadline next week. Like I said, if there's a massive sell-off, then we know the season's done and we'll look forward to the future. If there's a hybrid or buying, then we're locked in. So that's the last you'll hear from me on that. So let's, as Matt said, let's get hopeful. And if not, then we'll all hold hands together. So either way.
Very well said. Very well put. And again, let's stay hopeful here. And if we lose, well, we'll all cry together. I mean, what else can we ask for from this team? I mean, confusing, perplexing, good, bad, up, down. I mean, it's been a mixed bag. It's been everything you want to see. It's been everything you don't want to see. And if we could just try and stay hopeful here and believe in the guys, well, maybe they'll believe in themselves. But thank you all for a great episode here. Glad to get back on the sticks here. Like I said, we will be getting back to normal here. Count on it. Put it on the calendar. We will be put it on the shelf there. We'll be getting you episodes in the weeks here coming, and we'll cover this team. Whether we're winning, whether we're losing, whether we are buying, whether we are selling, we'll be here. We just hope we have some good stuff to bring you guys, some good stuff to talk about. Thank you all for listening to another one here, and we will catch you guys on the next one.